Hey guys, what is up? Quackwer here. Today we are going to be talking about basically the Boolean built-in data type and some basic control structures, basically if, else. And these are very important. You'll use them every day if you're a programmer. And they're one of the most basic things to learn. So let's get started. Alright, so I just built a basic main statement like always. And we're going to add a few includes for the tutorial. Just, the usual string and IOStream. Okay, so Boolean is basically true or false. So if you think about it, or I could basically have true or false. And there is a statement called if where you can pass it in any Boolean construction, whether it's a bool value or something that evaluates to a bool value, and it will execute the code in between the brackets if that value here is true. If it's false, it won't execute that value. So we can prove this by this will print. This will not print. Okay, so because this true value is true, this will always execute. Because it is not true, this will never execute, because else only executes if this value did not evaluate to true and there are no other statements in here like else ifs that evaluated to true. It'll just go here if no other groupings of those control statements is executed, if that makes sense. So let's just go ahead and run it. Of course I want to save changes. So this will print. So if we do something like this exact same thing here, but we change this to false value, therefore this will actually not print. Let's just add 2's here to show that it's different. Because this evaluates to false, this will not be executed, and since there isn't anything else to evaluate, it'll just go ahead straight to the else statement and evaluate this one. So let's go ahead and do that, run it. This will not print too, because this was false. Now you're wondering, oh, how can I easily convert, a true value to a false value? Maybe you weren't wondering it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So if we say if we want to actually have this code execute, even though this is false, you can use the exclamation point operator, which will take this value, whether it's true or false, and basically do the opposite of it. So if it's false, it'll turn it to true. If it's true, it'll turn it to false. This will print 3. So now you might be really confused. Oh, of course this won't print. This is a false value. But in fact, because we use this exclamation point, it reversed it to true. So the code inside the if statement, since this evaluated to true, this will execute. So if you build it and then run it, this will print 3. Excellent. So that's basically like the super basics. You can also combine multiple Boolean values together for like a more complex statement. For instance, I'll just show you the really simple one. There's 2 types. There's and or, which are represented by these 2 groups of symbols. So say if we wanted to do if this value is not false, or if it is not true, and this value is true, which of course we know both of these things are true, because this is not true, therefore it is false, therefore this evaluates to true, and this true value is actually true, so it evaluates to true, and since both of these values evaluate to true and they're ANDed together, therefore this will execute. So just finish that out, build it, run it, and an example, because both of these statements evaluated to true. But if you only want, say, one of them to evaluate to true, for it to execute this if in here, this code, you can use or. So let's just do if true value or false value, or For example, so if we just go ahead and compile this and run it, you see, okay, or example, that's because this evaluated to true, and because we have this or here, it just automatically is like, okay, we got one true. That's all we need. I don't care if this is false. I don't care if there's a bajillion more false statements in here. As long as we get one, we can execute this if statement. For this one, oh, it has to check every single one. This is true, this is true. If there's more, it'd be true, true, true. As long as every single one of those is true, we're going to go ahead and execute this stuff. Okay, so that's pretty boring. So let's just do a practical application. Say if you want to do like find a function. We covered functions in our previous tutorial, so hopefully you watched that one. Let's do bool is cool and give a name. So if we pass in a name, we have to check if they're cool. And of course, the most proper way to implement this function is to have, if the name is quackware, you return true. Otherwise, you return false. And comparing strings, yeah, we'll see if that works. So let's do string name equals quackware, and let's do cool equals is cool name. Oh yeah, and one more thing, if you print out a boolean, it will, I believe it'll just print the integer representation. 1 if it's true, 0 if it's false. So actually, you can just do if 1, because that also evaluates to true. So anything other than 0, if in terms of integers, if you pass into an if statement, that'll evaluate to true. If it's 0, evaluate to false. If it's -1, it'll evaluate to true, I believe. Let me double check that, because I rarely ever do this, so it's kind of like bad practice, but true, question mark? And let's comment out this because it's going to yell at me. Yes, comments are the best. Build, run, true? Yeah, so anything other than 0. Just had to validate that myself because I was not sure. So, okay. Oh, that's why I was confused. So usually equals is not the best way to compare two strings, but we're just going to do it for this tutorial. So therefore, if we pass in a name, which of course we passed in quackware, it does a if name equals quackware, which this name that we pass in will. So this will evaluate to true, so it returns true, so because they're cool. Otherwise, if any other name or string is passed in, it will return false. So let's build it. Cool equals 1, so quackware is cool, of course. And if you wanted to do something a little bit more complex, so this is, I mentioned it's good for control structures, if statements. So this example, I guess, will show that. It's good for organizing your code, making logical, basically, you want to execute actions if certain conditions are true, certain conditions are false. Basically, is the main point of if statements. So let's just do print age type, int age. So we're going to pass in an age, and based on that age, we are going to perform different tasks, basically print different types of strings. So if age less than 12, what are they? They are a kid. Kid. So I guess we haven't really covered. So else if is basically a way to combine multiple if statements together in the same block. So this else if will only be evaluated if this if statement did not execute to true. Like, so this code did not execute. If that is if that's what happened, it'll go to this else if, and it'll check every subsequent else if after that, if there's any. And if none of those actually execute their code in their block, they don't evaluate to true in this this statement, it'll execute whatever is else, whatever's in this else statement, which we saw before. But else ifs is basically just a way to chain multiple if statements together in the same same thing. So age 18. So yeah, let's do young adult, teenager, whatever. Else if, oops, Man, Eclipse is going crazy with the colors. Oh well. So let's just do adult. And else, you know, old. Sorry for all the older than 30 people watching, but can't really think of anything else. Okay, so now based on what we passed to our print age type, so let's pass, you know, 29, so print age type 1, print age type, you know, 12, 13. So for each of these things, it's going to go into a different execution block because of the evaluation of this Boolean statement, whether this is less than. I guess I didn't really cover less than, greater than, but if you know basic math, you know, you can figure that out. So if this age is less than 12, it'll evaluate to true, etc., etc. So let's build it, run it. So this first one we pass at 29, you're an adult because you went into this statement. You are not less than 12, you're not less than 18, but you are less than 30 because you're 29. Print age type 1, which went straight into this one. Print age type 13, you know, it got caught by this if statement. And if we do print age type, you know, 99, of course, build it. It's just going to blow through all these ifs and else ifs, and it'll go straight to the else because it doesn't satisfy any of these if statements. Okay, well, I guess this covers, you know, basic if-else, control statements, booleans, things like that. There's so many other examples of what to do with this. It's just so basic that you use it so much. I just wanted to give a basic overview of it. So that's it for this tutorial. Make sure to watch all my other C++ tutorials if you're interested. Yeah, thanks for watching. Quackware signing out.